Hello, I'm Siân Moxon. I'm presenting with my co-researcher Justin Webb the latest findings from our Wild Ways study on influencing urban rewilding behaviour in London's private gardens. Now, we believe urban rewilding is vital for the creation of community-focused, sustainable cities, given that nearly 70% of us will live in cities by 2050, and urban nature ensures both citizens' well-being and cities' climate change resilience. Rewilding private gardens would contribute significantly to city-scale green space and biodiversity, as they can provide vital wildlife habitat and cover a quarter of cities such as London. But residents' behaviour is impairing this potential. Here in London, we lose the equivalent of 2.5 Hyde Parks of green space every year as residents make changes such as paving over front gardens or laying artificial grass lawns. Our interdisciplinary Wild Ways study is therefore applying behavioural science methodologies to design research to explore urban rewilding of London's private gardens over 4 stages. We will summarise findings from stages 1 and 2, a literature review and mixed methods surveys, present new findings from stage 3, developing an intervention strategy to promote rewilding behaviour in London's gardens, and finally explain our in-progress stage 4, pilot testing that intervention strategy through my own Rewild My Street project.
Underpinning this work is the Behaviour Change Wheel, which is an intervention development framework. At the centre of the Behaviour Change Wheel is a behavioural model called the COM-B model, which suggests that behaviour is made up of somebody's capability to do or maintain that behaviour, their opportunity to take part in that behaviour, and their motivation for that behaviour. That behaviour change model, the COM-B model, sits at the centre of the behaviour change wheel, and depending on what needs to change, whether it's somebody's psychological capability, the knowledge on why to do something, or the physical capability, the strength and the skills required, or if we need to influence somebody's motivation, whether that is the thought processes that go behind it, or the automatic motivation influencing people's habits, understanding their thoughts and feelings and how they influence behaviour, or if it's changing the opportunity to take part in a behaviour, the physical opportunity, having things local to us, the time, the money, or the social opportunity, seeing other people do it in social norms. We can employ different intervention functions, which you can see on the screen, which sit outside of the COM-B model. So we can educate people or persuade them, we can incentivise them or use coercion, we can provide training, we can provide enablement or modelling or environmental restructuring, or put restrictions in place. Now, to bring those intervention functions to life, we can use certain intervention strategies in the behaviour change wheels. These are called policy categories. So we could use guidelines or fiscal measures or regulation or service provision, or we can legislate, or we can use environmental social planning, or we can use communications and marketing to bring these intervention functions to life, to influence particular components of behaviour, being capability, opportunity and motivation.
So in stage 1, we scoped the current literature on urban rewilding behaviour in gardens against the behaviour change wheel. We found all capability, opportunity and motivation factors were relevant to urban rewilding behaviour, and that all intervention functions and policy categories had the potential to influence this behaviour.
In stage 2, we conducted a study to investigate gardening for wildlife in London's private gardens. Using a cross-sectional design, a digital questionnaire was completed by 660 Londoners. The results revealed that 53% of our sample provided food for wildlife, 50% of our sample provided water, and 47% of our sample provided homes for wildlife in their gardens, and these were the most common practices. Creating habitat corridors and nature-friendly gardening practices were less frequent. A regression analysis identified that conservation organisation membership and garden size as significantly associated with gardening for wildlife. So the larger somebody's garden was, the more likely they were to take part in gardening for wildlife. If somebody was a member of a conservation organisation, then they were also more likely to take part in gardening for wildlife. We also found that age, gender, type of accommodation, home ownership, household income, occupation, whether a garden was shared or not, having dependents, religious beliefs and ethnicity were not associated with the practice of gardening for wildlife. So our findings suggest that intervention should target conservation group members and also those with larger gardens, whilst also promoting simple actions like food and water provision to broaden participation.
In stage 2, we also interviewed 20 London residents about their rewilding behaviour. We identified key themes influencing rewilding behaviour, including having a thirst for knowledge, space, time or cost constraints, and thoughts and feelings about nature. In stage 3, we used these findings from previous stages to inform the development of an intervention strategy to encourage rewilding behaviour in London gardens. We held focus groups and workshops with 20 London residents where we brainstormed practice and policy interventions to co-create the strategy. We analysed the data against the Behaviour Change Wheel to identify key intervention areas. We started the day with presentations of our previous findings and an icebreaker where we asked residents to define urban rewilding. The variation in the word cloud that produced shows it means many things to people, and it was seen as overwhelmingly positive by those taking part. This echoes the loose definition we have been using throughout the Wild Ways study.
In a series of focus groups, we asked the participants to complete a planning triangle or pyramid with activities at the bottom that could influence certain intermediate outcomes in the middle, with the final outcome being included at the top of the triangle or the pyramid. The activities were linked to the intervention functions of the Behaviour Change Wheel, and then the intermediate and the final outcomes were linked to the changes that we would need to see in one of the COM-B components to influence the overarching behaviour of urban rewilding in London's private gardens.
We asked the residents to focus on interventions that could be pilot tested through Rewild My Street. This is a design-led project I run that provides online guidance to inspire and empower urban residents to transform their gardens for wildlife. We also took this into account when considering the feasibility of the proposals the residents suggested.
We took the common points from the residents from the focus groups, the common activities, and assessed them and categorised them against the intervention functions of the Behaviour Change Wheel. As a research team, we then considered each potential activity against the APPEASE criteria, which stands for A, acceptability of a potential approach, P, the practicability of an approach, E, the effectiveness at bringing about change of that approach, A, the affordability of a particular intervention, S, the possible spillover effects, and E, equity. Would this be advantageous or disadvantageous to different groups differently? We settled on 3 approaches to take forward into stage 4. A digital marketing campaign, engagement with schools and young people, particularly in key stage 2, and the provision of bespoke gardening advice.
In stage 4, we are now measuring the impact of these intervention areas. We have developed and are pilot testing ideas for schools engagement, a digital marketing campaign, and an advice service through Rewild My Street. And we will of course keep you posted on the results. And you can get involved. Our digital marketing campaign, London Let's Get Rewild, runs until August. We are testing 3 messaging types focused on environmental concerns, personal benefits, and problem solving to see which is most effective.
The development of the teacher training programme and workshops for schools is well underway. We're in the process of designing a teacher training toolkit for Key Stage 2 teachers and could include lessons on understanding urban rewilding and what it is, a lesson plan on wildlife detectives, who lives in our gardens, and another session on designing a rewilded garden. All of the sessions linked to the national curriculum. Thank you for listening to this presentation. The project is moving fast. The bespoke gardening service is being designed over the coming months, and the development of the teacher training will gather pace also over the coming weeks and months. To keep up to date with developments on this research study, please follow the links on the screen or use the QR code that is provided for you.